Hey, thanks for joining everybody. Today we have Greg March from False Gods. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How about yourself?
Good. So let's just get started with some of the tours that you've got coming up. We've had
Sure.
Come to Grief on the show, so definitely familiar with them.
The homies.
And you're touring with another band called Barishi. I guess let's start with how that got all hooked up.
Wow, it's a great question. Oh God, before COVID, we had booked a show at St. Vitus with Come to Grief, and Sun Rot and all these bands, and then it got canceled, and then we we rescheduled it to I think God, when the fuck was it? 2021, I think it was like December, like a year ago. We played with them. And then we played with them in Philly as well. We tried to do a weekend last year with them. Um, that's how we first met them. I mean, Grief was like the East Coast answer to like I Hate God and Buzz Oven and all that stuff in the '90s. So I mean, obviously, for the type of music we do, and for the fact that we're from New York, like we were very familiar with that band. Kind of influenced by them, of course. So to play with them, like this new version, was kind of a goal of ours, and now like we're kind of friends with them. Is like icing on the cake. They're just the greatest dudes in the world. We did a small tour of New England in July, and we played Maine, and they came out and fucking hung out, and we're like, these dudes are the coolest. I not only they're a great band, like I just want to hang out with them. It's like that kind of a vibe. So, and after that run, we were talking. They're like, let's hang out in November. I was like, cool. And then they got Rishi to be on it, and they basically took care of everything. So it's like it's fucking insane. It's a dream come true for us, for where we're at in our career or whatever, wherever we're at in our band. Uh, but it's cool. We're very excited, and we're honored to be a part of it. So we're getting prepared for it as we speak. Um, it's good. It's good. Their new record is incredible. It's gonna be a good couple shows. So I hope we don't blow it.
Okay, let's talk about your new album, Neurotopia.
Sure.
I assume that it was written during COVID. I mean, COVID's not what it was, in 2020, but I'm sure it had its drawbacks and stuff. So, how did the writing process go? How did tell us about the album, I guess.
Yeah, we well, obviously, yeah, it was written during COVID. Uh, we were a five piece at the time. Um, we had two. We had another guitar player and a different bass player, and they had a couple of songs, and then we just started putting shit together. Uh, since we had literally nowhere else to go and nothing else to do, so it's the next step for the band. Definitely, it's definitely has it has more of a, I would say, more of a straightforward vibe at times. Um, we definitely leaned a little bit harder on like the hardcore side of the band. Um, and then we recorded it at this studio called Westfall Studios. They're they did the Moontooth records. If you're all familiar with them, I'm sure you are. Um, they're out on Long Island. So we stepped it up as far as the writing, the production, um, everything.
So you
So
mentioned you were a five piece. Are you no longer a five piece?
yeah, okay. So the bass player that we had on the previous record, No Symmetry, he moved to Texas during COVID, I think. Yeah, but he was around for the writing process, and one of his songs is on the record. Um, and then we had a lead guitar player, this Nick Luisi. He is on the record, but he left the band before it was it was did he leave after it was released? He might have left right after before it was released. I'm sorry. I can't remember because whatever. But yeah, so we're a four piece now. We're gonna stay a four piece. In fact, we just recorded two songs that we're gonna put out on a split with this Japanese sludgecore band. Oh man, I can't pronounce their name. Aburio.
Dude,
It's totally wrong.
no, I totally feel that. I'm constantly butchering everybody's name, so I totally get that. Is that going to be on the same What record label is that going to be on?
It's their label. They're a Japanese band. They have a whole label. They approached us. They were fans of the band, and they were like, "We want to do a split with you. Can you give us two songs by?" Well, they said initially by September, but it got delayed, so it's not going to be out until sometime next year.
Is that a 7 inch?
I don't know if they're going to do a 7 inch is actually really expensive to do. They're probably going to do a CD.
Oh,
And
okay.
talking about maybe doing a cassette because they're going to do two songs. We're going to do two songs. So they were like, and I'm like, cassettes kind of trendy in America. So if you put them out, like we might be able to help you move them because they're a small band and a small label. I forget the name of the label, but they're all kind of doing it on their own. And this band has kind of created their own scene out there, so it's pretty cool. They like found us, and they're
Yeah, I was actually thinking your songs are kind of long, so I don't think you could fit two of your songs on a 7 inch, one side of it,
maybe
because
not. No,
yeah, I
these two
think what
songs
like
that we did are like
6 minutes
probably
is the
yeah, 6 minutes is like an average.
for a
Yeah,
side though, not for but for
yeah,
side
for,
one side
for
of a 7 inch, so you can maybe fit one of your tunes on
yeah,
that.
yeah, possibly. We'll have to do like a 10 or a 12 inch.
10 inch.
But
I
yeah,
haven't seen 10 inches in forever.
oh, they're awesome. I used to have a bunch of them. I still do, and I love a 12 inch single. Like on a like a big 12 inch single. I always think they sound the best. But
So your bass player wrote a song on the album, but he didn't play on the album.
he left before the record. Um,
And you're
but he
like,
was
fuck it, we're doing your tune anyway.
no. I initially was like, all right, we're not going to do it. But he was like, no, please add that song to the record. And the rest of the band was like, yeah, like let's do it. They didn't want to, and he was totally fine with it. So
Yeah, okay. It's just kind of funny, but that I mean, it's really cool that he would be like, I'm leaving, but please, just keep doing my stuff. So
yeah,
that
yeah, it wasn't like he
it wasn't on bad terms.
not at all. He moved because he had all of his family moved to Texas, and he had to make a life change. He had to get out of New York. I kind of understand it. So
So you did replace him on bass, though,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah. Our new bass player, his name is Devin. He's
Right.
great. He played on the record, and he played on this 7 inch coming up. So he's the man. He's the man.
So where and you mentioned in talking to you before, you have another tour coming up
Yes,
with Ominous.
yes. Omnis.
Omnis.
Yes. That's the November 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. They're going to take us to Detroit. Um, Jesus Christ, Akron, Ohio,
Okay.
Chicago, Indianapolis. We
Ohio's
haven't.
like a crazy, crazy death metal scene now in
Yeah.
Ohio. I don't. It's just. There's so much coming out of Ohio. It's silly right now, and it's.
So the guy who owns our label, uh, this Seeing Red Records, he also owns another label called Redefining Darkness,
Oh, Redefining Darkness. Okay, yeah. No, we have a ton of their bands on.
and he put on that fest that happened, that death metal fest that happened this year.
Okay.
Um, so he's very much involved in all that stuff.
So I guess that's this label that you're on, because I did check out the roster and it seems like it's all like sludge bands
Yeah.
and doom bands. So I guess is that
Mm.
like the redefining darkness, like sludge?
Redefining darkness is this like thrashy, deathy side.
Okay,
The
so
side
that's
that
their
probably makes me
imprint,
a little more money.
a bit more muddy.
Yeah, a little money.
You guys did a cover tune
Yes.
um by a band that is not sludgy, but you
No.
did. So how did that come about?
So initially we were first starting to write, we were just gonna do like we had like two or three songs and they all kind of had like that thrashy kind of hardcore vibe. So we were gonna put out like a 3 or 4 song EP um before we decided to just do a full length. And we were like, we should do some sort of cover, like a hardcore cover, but make it like sound like us. And Mike and was like, we should do In Contrast to Sin, the singer. I was like, oh, like Integrity is like that's too obvious of an influence. So initially I was like, nah. But then I was like, oh wait, I could do this, I could do that. So I wrote the arrangement um entirely, and the whole ending, the whole thing. I wrote the entire arrangement for it to make it sound like a epic, epic sludge hardcore,
Do you
whatever the
ever do you ever find out if they heard it? And
uh so this is a funny story. I don't know how this transpired, but the um the record was put on YouTube, and it's like automated from YouTube. So like our label Seeing Red puts it up on YouTube,
right,
and it had maybe 20, 30 views, and one of the views was Dwid, and he started like bugging out because I guess in the description, which we had nothing to do with, it was like totally automated from YouTube. It didn't list them as a as a writer or whatever.
okay. So like bugging out
So
in a
to be
bad
fair,
way.
we paid for the licensing, everything, like everything is legal. If we checked it out, uh, like everything was cool, but he was like going crazy, and but it got situated. It wasn't. It's not like we put it up on YouTube.
Okay, so they knew beforehand that you were going to do this.
I don't think that's the way it works.
Oh, okay,
You have to pay for a license, which we did, and
okay.
not like it goes out to the band. It doesn't work like that nowadays. Um, but I don't a lot of that kind of stuff. I don't really know how it works. But I spoke to Thomas, who's the label owner, and he says that YouTube basically automates all that stuff, so it's kind of on them. So he fixed it, or fixing it, but it was a process. It was a little scary because we're like, oh, this guy was going crazy, but like it got situated. But I don't know if he like heard it and was like, oh, this is great. I think he just was like, you
Like
guys are trying
WTF?
to
This is my song, or yeah.
yeah, you're trying to steal my money. And I'm like, okay, no.
I don't know. There's no. I always say there's no money in metal, but I can't imagine there's much money in hardcore either. Like,
I don't know. Depends on who you are.
well, yeah,
There's
yeah. Like,
Yeah, depends on what your definition of hardcore is.
I don't
Turnstile,
know.
I guess, is a hardcore band. They're doing okay. I don't think they're making millions of dollars, but they're getting to the next.
If you're making a living and don't have a day job, that's something to be.
Yeah, especially doing that style of music. Sure. Yeah. But I don't know if they heard it, um,
Or what they thought of it.
or what they thought of it. But I mean, I like it, so that's that's good enough.
I guess let's talk about some more of your other influences.
Sure.
Like I'm super old, so like I always remember like like when I think of like somebody who's doing like a sort of a not punk, but like Corrosion of Conformity is always coming to mind because I think back in the day, it's funny when I first heard them, it was all from like punk shows and punks were wearing their stuff, and I didn't sort of.
Sure.
It actually took me a little bit to figure out all their Black Sabbath influences, which you listen to it now and you're like, it's so obvious, but back in the day, it was like, no, this is a punk record, and then you're like, oh well, shit, no, it's actually like really like a black, like there's so much Black Sabbath in there.
Yeah, sure, totally.
So
Um,
so I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's sort of a history of like merging that,
sure. Saint Vitus was touring with Black Flag, was on SST. You know, um, there's so much. There's another band I was thinking about too. I mean, even a band like I Hate God is like basically a punk band, and when you really break it down, they just play
yeah, no.
Sabbath style riffs. So there's always been a lineage between like unbelievably slow music and unbelievably fast music. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like when we first started, a lot of what we were doing was just like almost like hardcore riffs just played instead of 200 BPM at like 50 BPM. Um, so there's always been that sort of a thing there. God, there's other bands that have done it too. I feel like, and I'm like totally missing it. But yeah, there's that thing that it's just like the yin and the yang. It's like two contrasting worlds.
And you do have a faster song on the CD, the to defy. Wait, no, hold on.
Oh
Yes,
yeah, that one's fast too. That has
yeah.
fast parts, sure. Yeah, it has like a blasty part. I don't, at this point, it's like we're just gonna do whatever we want, kind of thing.
And that's
Um,
the only way to do it, though. I mean,
yeah, no one really cares. So it's just like we're just gonna write real heavy music. At times it'll be sludgy. At times it'll be fast. At times it'll be noisy. At times it'll be like melodic. But there's no reason to. It's just so boring to be to fight, just try to find a lane and just constantly stay there just to get like there's even for like Doom and whatever, there's no real big audience there, So it's just like let's just do whatever we want. That's
so there
kind of
might
what
be more
happened there.
fast songs in your future.
I don't know about that. Well, yeah, on the on the split, there's like a fast song. I kind of
Okay.
have like like the band, myself and Mike and Paulie, which is his brother, who's the drummer. We met in our local hardcore scene out in New York, Long Island. So I feel like uh even though it like comes natural to us, and Mike has a very like hardcore style of the way he phrases his lyrics and his vocal style. Um, and I like that, it works, his thing and my thing. But sometimes I feel like, especially on this record, because there's a lot of faster type parts. It was cool, but sometimes I feel like we're resting on our laurels. Like it's just too much of a comfort zone. So I want to kind of the next couple of releases start never abandoning, but start pushing the envelope in different directions, musically speaking. So we'll see. We'll see. We're never gonna not play fast parts. That would be silly. But I'm not gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna make another record where it has like so many put that 2-step parts. But who knows? I could make we can make like an agnostic front type record tomorrow. So it all depends. Anyway, the wind blows.
There we go. And you mentioned in talking previously that you used to play drums. So I was kind of curious. That seems like a kind of a crazy story that you were just like fuck this or whatever, and you were playing drums. Then you're like, no, I'm gonna play guitar now.
I always played guitar. Like any of the bands, like original bands that I was in, I'd always contribute to some of the music. But we had did His Mike and myself were in this band called Skeleton Dealer, and the guitar player, his name's Rob Lauritsen. He was in this band called From Autumn to Ashes, and they got back together around 2015 and stuff. And so once they did, like that project kind of resolved, and I was like, I don't want to stop playing heavy music anymore. So, but I don't want to play drums in a heavy band again. So I was like, I'm going to try to break out on my own and see how this goes. And here we are. That's it.
What do you
But I've
guys
always
tune?
played a little.
What do you guys tune to? What are you?
Most of the record is in C sharp standard, and then and then drop B. Actually, no. Your thoughts are void is just she C sharp standard. I think Phantasmagoria is in C sharp standard.
You playing six strings or
Six
seven?
strings, yeah. Then I'll drop the B, and then there's
Okay.
like an open tuning, like 2 to 5 purities, and like some like open tuning where I detune the first 2 strings, almost like almost like an open G tuning, like Dadgad, but like a step and a half lower. So all different types of weird tunings. That's actually the only one that has like a weird tuning. Everything else is pretty standard. C sharp standard is that Black Sabbath.
So do you have to bring?
Good
Do you
old.
have to if you have a song with a different tuning? Do you have to bring a different guitar? Like, do you have to swap guitars? Things
Yeah,
like that.
I just keep tuning on
It's
stage.
like okay.
Just keep it simple. I don't have
Um.
room in my car for a second guitar.
Any particular stories or about the album art?
Yes, yeah. The guy who made it, his name is Hal Miller. He is a homie of ours from Brooklyn. Um, we used to play a show with his old band, Eternal Black. They were like our first friends. They were like their first friends who weren't like just old punk rock hardcore guys. When we first started out, they broke up since, but he is incredible. He did the album artwork for Year of the Cobra. I forget which record, and we have used him all year. He's done almost. If you look on our Instagram, he's done almost all of our flyers. He
okay.
did a shirt design for us. We released the last record, No Symmetry, Only Disillusion. We did a CD release during COVID, and then we had another label, like a grindcore label, put it out on cassette, and we did exclusive artwork for the cassette, and he did all the artwork, and it's
Okay.
bad. So
Even though he didn't do the regular artwork, he did a special release for the No
yeah,
Symmetry.
for the cassette, we did complete, totally different artwork, um, which I like better than the original, to be honest. The hell was I going to say? Yeah, he's the man. He's great. He works with a lot of uh, bands in our genre. So go hire him. He needs to work.
Cool. Yeah, no, and we'll put I always like put links to people and stuff in the description. So
Oh yeah, yeah,
go
it's
check
great.
that stuff out. I'll
He's
have a
great.
link in there. Um what else do you got what else do you have going on besides the two song thing? You got a couple tours, you got a two song. Is there anything else that you're thinking
We
of
are.
in the
Yeah,
future?
we're doing the Carolinas, December 16th and 17th. December 16th is in North Carolina. I forget the lineup, but we're playing with our friends in Tell. It's gonna be great. Also, the 17th, we're playing in South Carolina with um, Witch Pit and this band called Oakskin, who has members of Kylesa in there. So we're pretty stoked about that one. So that's gonna be a fun little weekend. The split should be out sometime in next year. We have a couple of things planned for next year. I can't really talk about them right now because they haven't been announced. And
Yeah.
We're told not to say anything. But we're going to be doing a couple of. We'd like to tour in March, hopefully, with our label mates in Bleeth. We're trying to work on that now, and possibly a couple of festivals in the early summer, late spring.
So, Greg, we can wrap it up soon. Do you got
Yeah.
any shout outs, any other bands that you play with that you just you want to recommend to us? We always like listening to new music and stuff.
Uh, so our bass player Devin, he plays in this band called Funeral Dancer. They're
Okay.
excellent. In fact, Nick, who used to play guitar in our band, is like he does lead vocals and sings lead vocals and lead guitar in that band as well. So I'd recommend them. Or one of there's this band on Long Island. They're a three-piece bass, drums, vocals. They're called Pig Farm. They're great dudes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're like young kids making like noisy, sludgy, just terrible, horrible, great music. Uh, in fact,
Terrible, horrible, great music. That's
yeah. uh, and what the hell was I going to say? The drummer from that band is actually subbing for Paulie because he can't do the tour.
oh,
Um,
okay.
Come to Grief tour. So I actually have a rehearsal with him tomorrow.
Cool.
Um, um, yeah, I would say like those two bands are great. I'm listening to this band called Dome Runner. They're like an industrial metal band from like I think Finland. It's like the only thing I could listen to right now. It sounds exactly. It's like Napalm Death, Godflesh.
Dome
Like
Runner.
yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
they're brand new. Like the record came out last year. It's like it's fucking incredible. Like
Okay.
I can't anything else but it. But
Okay.
that
I'm gonna
record
have to go check that out.
insane. I'm very much into like industrial metal,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Godflesh, and all that stuff. So it's a huge
Yeah, we've definitely been at
part.
some shows together then, for sure.
Sick. Sick. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah.
Okay, Greg. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. I'm sure. Like I said, I really like Come to Grief and obviously Grief and
Oh yeah.
I had been checking out Barishi earlier and
They're
they have some
they're
cool stuff.
incredible. Yeah, we're pretty fortunate to play with them. They're great.
Okay. Well, that's it, everybody. Thanks for joining. Later.